one.
Unjaded. Very physical. Then he goes inside a bit later, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let's skip to that.
Yes.
That's also another thing to notice. The switch is like you're doing two separate instruments. Like the pianist has to get up, he has to change position, he has to
Mm-hmm.
take his time. Uh,
Yeah, it's a pretty physical piece. Yeah, that I wrote for him, I would say. And he actually moves around the piano. He has a lot of physical movement. He does some dance. Um, more pedestrian type of dance because he's not a trained dancer, but um, he's a very fit person and a very artistic person, so he does it pretty well.
the dance is towards the end, right? Same thing here.
Yeah.
Or does he dance now? No, that's weird. Well, not weird for you in general. So that's another extended technique there.
Uh,
When was this written?
um, it was written not that long before COVID. It was premiered the summer of 2019.
Actually, it's very interesting in the sense that we can tell the piano can can be like three instruments, four instruments altogether.
Mm-hmm.
Do you instruct Anthony to do any theatrical thing on the stage?
Yes. Yes. I worked with them very close. I mean, we worked for the day, but I worked with them very closely, and I have quite a lot of um, theatrical notations, like in the score.
What I've noticed in many of your pieces is like the performer is along with the instrument is kind of like wearing or tearing himself down little by little.
Hmm.
It's kind of like a leitmotif that I kind of notice.
Perhaps.
Then the dancing will come around here. No,
Well, he's doing movements the whole time. Yeah, he starts to get more, just more and more physical. Um,
the timbres that you get, they may be very well be used in electronic music.
yeah,
Out of the inside of the piano.
there are a lot of pieces that I have that people will listen and assume that there's electronics in the pieces, but I have almost nothing written for electronics.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I've had that too, but with uh, like most people are not versed or haven't listened to many extended techniques, especially um, in the piano or with percussions, like bowing the cymbals. It sounds like it kind of like brings out
Hmm.
the partials and stuff like that. It's like, huh? Most people will think it's electronic, but that's why we use this sound,
Hmm.
right? I would say that's the
It
point
sounds fresh, yeah.
to expand the timbric palette. You might say the palette that we have. Yeah, I think that's why still we are
I
still
like
writing
obviously
for
like
instruments.
I've really liked. I mean, all my pieces I think involve bowed piano in some way, which is interesting. I mean, I think for me it's also that I really I really have a hard time with um, the idea that the piano doesn't sustain in the same way. It obviously attacks and decays, and so the bowed piano I think is, and that's my preference is more for um, like this kind of shape sound. My music isn't always that kind of shape sound, so it'd be very boring. But I really have a strong preference for sound that kind of comes from nothing and goes from nothing and has very little transient, which is not the piano. So I think the bowed piano is kind of has been my solution. And the bowed piano was one of the first extended techniques that I really was acquainted with. I remember, I think I was a freshman, or I think it was a freshman or sophomore in undergraduate. Um, I was Del Niente was in like its babyhood, maybe its second season, and a couple pieces. There was actually a couple pieces I got to play as Mabel, the pianist of an academic. I got to be her assistant and play inside the piano while she played on the keys, and then also play piano bows. Not on my pieces, but on other people's pieces. Um, and it was really one of my first experiences in contemporary music. So maybe that stuck with me as well. But yeah, I seem to. But I think I love sustained sound. Like I'm very in most of my percussion works, I have bowed sounds as well because I like that type of sound world a lot.
That would be one way to get like outside, an effective way to get outside of the normal timbers and way of that the piano is perceived that we talked about earlier. Can you think of anything else,
Mm-hmm.
Chantin, where you can like present the piano in a way that it blends together with the instruments, or um, how do you differ it when we're writing? I know that you've written a lot for keyboard, so how do you differ it when it is a solo piano piece and an ensemble piece and orchestra piece.
I think for ensemble piece, if I have to include the piano, I would think very hard how the piano can contribute to the texture created by the other instruments, especially the use of extended technique in the other instruments. How can the piano mimic a similar effect, or how the piano can like complement with the other instruments if my sound is getting a little bit more textural or noise based. Piano is basically like a pitch based instrument. I myself not a huge fan of inside piano technique, although I use it sometimes. I prefer to use the piano as a piano.
Yeah,
Um,
I have never really
um,
venture inside the piano. I kind of it's something that I haven't had curiosity for, and I think that composers like Megan will do better than I, because they have the curiosity to go and do that, and they have the impetus, they have the drive to go and compose like for that and do a good composition. I don't think that I have that interest. If I use the piano, I will use it in a more traditional manner, and probably that's my downfall in terms of not using it of the complaints. Let's say I had earlier or something, or
I'm
the
not
problem.
discouraging you. I'm not discouraging you from using inside piano techniques.
No, I'm just saying that I'm the same way. I'm not gonna. I kind of like tend to stay most of the time like on the keys, for example.
I
So how do you have you worked with piano in an ensemble? How do you deal with that dynamic?
Yeah, it's like I try to bring out the most characteristic things out of each one of each instrument. For example, I have this trio for cello, clarinet, and piano, and I assign them very strong identities to the material that each one has, and the yeah, the also the material that is exposed, that it be very idiomatic, to use the instruments in the most idiomatic manner. Well, even if the piano kind of wins, I kind of take out the piano. There are many silences. It's kind of like I choose where it goes inside the music. I try, um for example, let's like a function, have a glissando, a very exaggerated glissando on the cello with a very molto vibrato, uh, to exaggerate that gesture, but it also gives it a lot of personality and a lot of weight. And if you use it functionally, it's also another way to move the attention towards the cello, for example. Use the If you use the other instruments in in unconventional ways that are kind of attractive to the ear, I think that you can circumvent that dominance of the piano in one way or another. Also choosing when to have it in, like, uh the functions. Use the you We talk about functions in music, right? About cadences and all of that stuff, transitions and all of that. Associate each instrument with a function. Like, the instrumentation then becomes part of the composition itself, in a way. And in that sense, since
Yeah.
each has its own strong personality and its own strong role, then I think that you can make them sing, make them stand out, each on its own 2 feet, so to speak. Although a piano
Yeah,
has
I mean,
3 feet.
I think for me, in any piece I write, like writing a piece for the instruments at hand and not just writing notes that I throw at instruments is like very, very top priority. And I try to make it so that, I mean, doesn't mean that each part has to be featured the same amount, but I try to make it so that each player feels like they matter. And
Mm-hmm.
if they just, like if they were just to not show up for the concert, that it would um, be very disastrous. Um, because I think, I don't know, I maybe also as a player, I think that's the worst when you feel like it doesn't matter if you play your part well or not, or whatever, that it's not noticeable, or you just feel like you've been thrown notes and they're not necessarily notes for your instrument. So I think about that a lot, and I think there's just so many like stereotypes and cliches with the piano that I think about it probably even a bit more than I already think about it probably in a lot, but I probably think about it a little bit more for the piano because the piano does have a lot of stereotypes, I think.
I guess. Well, we can listen to a bit of mine probably, or we can before like cutting it short, like closing this one. Let me see if I can find it. Remember. Uh, the thing is how the piece moves along. It's like um, they don't really mix together their materials, as you guys heard. It's like each one of them has their own material, and at very few spots can you notice that the material of the instruments come together. Like it's kind of like at very specific moments in the piece, and for a short time. So in that sense, I kind of like tend to uh, characterize each instrument as having its own personality. Also, I kind of like let the music breathe a bit, like the sound go out, like so that the listener can reflect upon what he's heard. And I think
Mhm.
that a lot of the piano is kind of like gimmicky in some ways, like very uh, concertante or so. So in a way that since it's that way all the time, it's kind of like falls in the background. Or I tried to do it. That was the intention in many ways.
Yeah, I mean, I think if anything, the cello sounds like their most prominent voice to me because the cello probably has the biggest range of timbres in this piece because you use quite a lot of extended technique for the cello, which you don't really use for the piano or the clarinet quite as much either.
No, the clarinet is kind of like stuck between this motive, theme, melody, and kind of being a percussive thing, being a percussive instrument with the slap tongue. But it's yeah, it's more like trying to focus on the cello. You're totally right there. If I think about, if I remember correctly, what I was doing when I was composing this,
Hmm.
but yeah, it's kind of like that would be one way to work around it. I don't know. I didn't want the piano to take center stage. I never want the piano to be the dominant one, like it was in romanticism, for example. And I tried for like the Coleño, the Yete. It's very characteristic of the piece because I didn't want like I wanted something more characteristic or unique to the cello that couldn't be easily replicated by the piano. Like the piano is on its own way. You can say that each one is on its own way. There are three ways, and they kind of meet at some points. And but somehow it kind of works as a total piece of music, at least for me, when I compose it and still listen to it. Well, it's fine. So that would be
Mhm.
one way to work around it, at least in my head, while using the keyboard in a more traditional manner. Is that yeah? I don't think I
Yeah.
now that I think about it,
But
I
do you
never.
think that the keyboard is still essential to that piece?
Is it
Or
essential?
did you
Well,
just
yeah,
write?
yes, because it was composed with every instrument in mind, and like when the sounds came to my head, the keyboard, those keyboards, like just very maybe somewhat grandiose in the speed, but at the same time, it's like a lot of it was like aleatory. They were boxes with pitches, like place these pitches at the fastest speed possible and stuff like that. Just arrange. I gave him a range. I just wanted that gesture, uh, but not to express grandiosity, but to create a texture that it becomes a background music, a background sound. I wanted it to become a background. In a way, like a
Mhm.
bed or a foundation for the rest of the sounds. I wanted the other ones to stick out more. And now that I think about it, it's kind of like a tendency that I do. I don't really. There's a love hate relationship with the piano. I don't know if you guys have that. I would say that you do, Megan.
Mhm. I think I have it. I do have a love hate relationship. I think I have a stronger love hate relationship with the horn, which I have
Oh,
um, more of a background playing. But I took piano lessons for many years. I don't know. Maybe I don't know. It's yeah. I definitely feel passionate about the piano, and it's both passion of love and hate
I
at the
get the
same time for
feeling
sure. I
that
think that's why I find it so challenging.
I get the feeling that Chunting is the one that is more in love with the piano.
Yeah, you think so?
Wouldn't
I
you say so? You teach piano. You kind of
I
like it is your main instrument,
I like
right?
it with fear.
With fear.
Yeah,
What
like
do you mean by that?
I have to respect it, respect the piano like a god. That
Okay.
I have to be very careful with it. Yeah.
Is that would you say that that's because you know the literature and like works like from Rachmaninoff and stuff like that, or no? Are you hyper conscious of the pianistic
Very
literature?
cautious. Yeah, very cautious. Yeah.
I'm
Don't
a.
want
I will say that I'm not hyper conscious. I will say that I'm pretty aware of it because as composers we have to be. But I wouldn't say that I'm hyper conscious. Like if I'm writing a piano solo piece, I'm not thinking about all of that baggage because it's a lot of baggage. There's a lot of tyrants for the piano.
I'm
And
Mhm.
yeah, sorry.
I'm not too afraid of like repeating or imitating things from the past. The problem is I I know there are lots can be done on the piano, but sometimes I have a difficulty choosing the right one. I may have a lot of ideas in the head and don't know how to stay focused with one or two single elements when I'm writing for the piano. And usually I don't want one single instrument to sound too prominent in ensemble setting. But for the piano, it is very easy to make it sound like a solo. Yeah. And
And how do you work around that?
and it is also too convenient for me if I find it I mean if I find my project getting stuck, then I just okay, just write a few notes on the piano to fill up the space. Yeah.
Hmm.
It is just too convenient. So usually I force myself to think otherwise. Yeah. It's somehow it is like as you find a move, then try to find a better move. Yeah.
Like chess? Yes.
Yeah. So
Yes.
if whenever I feel like, oh, I just want to use the piano, let's say if I'm writing for the orchestra, and then I could and if I could feel the temptation to simply write a few notes for the piano, let's say the lowest A to to fill up the space. Oh, and then I would stop myself. Hey, no, 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 don't do that. It is it's like a cliche nowadays. What else I can do? If I really want to use the piano, what else I can write? I'm very aware of this kind of like questions. I ask myself a lot whenever I have to write for the piano, and actually not just for the piano. When I have to write for the I mean I don't really write electro acoustic music, so whenever I compose, I I I'm very cautious about what options are on the table and what and which one is inferior. I I I think about that. Yeah. Let's say if I have um let's say I want to write some trills for the piano or some trills for violin or flutes, then I would ask myself, hey, whether I just want to use it like an ornament, should I like if I just want an ornament, what else I can use? Trill is like a cliche now, for example. Yeah, and for me, piano occasional is like this, so I'm very afraid of it. Yeah, especially in my formative years, I wrote a lot for the piano, almost like one or two instruments with the piano. So I'm very careful whenever such a such an opportunity to write whatever ensemble, including the piano. Yeah, I don't hate it, yet, of course, because I play it myself. But at
Yeah,
the same
you
I
cannot hate the piano when we've learned like
but
pretty.
I but I have to be very careful. Yeah,
Yeah, I
too
understand what you mean.
it is just too convenient. Whenever you get stuck or whenever you want to be loud, just just play some huge chords on the piano and then it's done. Right? It's too easy.
There's also the thing of like there's so much literature out there. It's like um how can you use it in a way that it hasn't been used before or that it doesn't sound like a cliche like standard music like a lot of other music out
Yeah, but the same can be said of like the string quartet genre. And I used to, when I was younger, I always claimed I would never write a string quartet. I've written at least three
there.
now. And I would write more.
Never.
And yeah, but like, I remember adamantly saying at one point, I will never write a string quartet because in my head, like the string quartet just doesn't need in my repertoire. There's great repertoire for the string quartet. I didn't, I don't really want to compete with like Beethoven Grosse Fuge. Um, but then I just kind of got over it and just kind of realized, first of all, there's a reason why there's so much repertoire for the string instrument. It's very um, effective and versatile and capable ensemble. There are lots of working string quartets that play music, and there are even some that are specialized in contemporary music. And ultimately, I'm not competing against the gross a few because I'm not trying to do the same things as that piece or other famous string quartets. And I think the same could be said of like the piano is that yeah, there is a lot of stuff and it makes it difficult, but at the same time, does it really matter? I mean, sometimes it just makes it a crutch to worry about all the repertoire. I mean, obviously,
But
a
I
lot
would
of that repertoire affects how we hear the piano, for sure. And then you
be
have to
more
kind of be
excited.
aware of that.
I would be more excited to write up for a string quartet than for a solo piano piece. Wouldn't you? I I have that.
I
Uh,
yes. I think
you
I
mentioned
would because I love the sounds of strings. I love their physical. They have there's a lot of really effective set of techniques for strings. I just really like those instruments. Most of the time when I present my music, people even I most people will think I'm a string player. Even string players oftentimes will think I'm a string player, which I guess is maybe a compliment, but um, because I usually strongly prefer strings and percussion. I think musically, doesn't mean I won't write for anything else or don't like anything else. It's just that I definitely feel that's my comfort. And yeah, if I was given those two projects, I probably would go for the string quartet naturally.
So the piano is always gonna be there. It seems to be that it was invented like on the 18th century, and it was invented to stay, and it has stayed with us until now. So might as well use it and try to think outside the box, but with like with that repertoire very having an awareness of that repertoire that we are operating within those confines, but at the same time don't let it limit you. I will say it's like just try and do some art artwork, some composition of your own with this medium, and something interesting might come out. It's like, how can you compose something that is not fully your own, right?
Yeah.
It's kind of like,
I mean, it's not much different. Like, you
unless you're
know,
actively
there
trying
are artists today that are
other
working with mediums, like visual artists that work with mediums that have been done for many centuries. People are still painting with oil paints, and people are still creating innovative things with some of the with oil paints. Sometimes the same thing. It's true. Like it's possible to reinvent and be innovated with the piano for sure. But yeah, there's a lot that has been done. There's a lot of stereotypes we have of the piano before the first note of your piece. That we have to combat with a little bit. Um, yeah, these
yeah,
ideas
or you
of
can use
it
them
being
to
the soloist or it being an accompanist. Yeah,
you can use them to your
yeah.
advantage. That was pretty much what I did with that piece in with some of the gestures that were really fast up in the register. It's like I just had this image, sonic image of what I wanted. I wasn't very specific, but the pianist knew what to do and what I wanted. So I kind of use it as a gimmick to create a texture, for example. So I was aware of how to use it, let's say, or how it is normally used. But then if you kind of like compress it into being a raw material, then you can use it in different ways because of the intention is different. And I think that's what I got to say about it. Um, any clothing thoughts from you guys?
Um, no, I mean, yeah, I think just because, like, I mean, we talk about the piano being something that presents a little bit of fear or comfort as composers in different ways. We all have a different relationship with it. Um, I don't think that's any means to be like, oh, this instrument is difficult to write for, has a lot of challenges, is scary to write for. That means like, oh, you shouldn't do it either. Um, I think yeah, a lot of these problems also make for creativity. They make for us to think harder and more deeply about our music, and I think that can be a positive thing.
Hmm. What about you, Shanting? Anything else to add?
I don't think so.
We are good then. I think we're done with this one. Was a conversation that is
Yeah.
it might come again because of the importance of the keyboard, but I think that will be it for today, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So have a good day. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.